My name's Ted. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date, where my sober journey officially begins, is 10/20, excuse me, 6/26, 2010. About, sorry, about 15 years. I'm just getting used to this new Zoom stuff. It's a great group. Really cool. It's really excited to be speaking with you guys today. I have 20 minutes to do this max. So, like I said, it's my job to share not only what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So I'll qualify myself real quick. Um, June 26th, 2010, I was walking through Highland Park, Texas, which is the Beverly Hills of Dallas, 3:17 in the morning, and I got picked up for public intox. I also had some outside issues in my pocket that had me looking at literally a life sentence in prison. So, it was a very interesting day for me. But I was also relieved when I got pulled over. It's just like I've never sat in a squad car and said, please take me to jail. I was tired. I was done. So how did I get here? Led pretty normal childhood, you would say. Um, Middle class family. We didn't want for anything. We didn't have everything, but we didn't want for anything. I remember the only thing challenging with the childhood is we moved a lot, so I really didn't have very many established ties in high school and stuff. I think I went to like five high schools in that time. So it was really hard to stay connected to people, I guess you could say. I remember my 18th birthday. I was like, I'm ready to get out of here. Moved to Des Moines. Made another geographical change to Minnesota, then another geographical change to Vegas, and another geographical change to Dallas. And in those times, I was also drinking very heavily. Um, it wasn't until I got to Vegas till I got introduced to an outside issues that basically was the high speed chicken feed variety. Won't get too much into that because this is Alcoholics Anonymous, and our singleness of purpose is to talk about alcohol. Um, I was in the beginning, doctor's opinion says talks about we drink essentially because we like the effect produced by alcohol. I loved it. It was absolutely phenomenal. My um, not to say my inhibitions, but it's just like had no fear of social. Didn't have that social anxiety anymore. I didn't have that. Well, I wonder if these people are gonna like me anymore. Stuff. It's just like it felt great. I just felt normal again, right? Um, until alcohol ceased to be a luxury, I had to have it. Um, and we'll rinse and repeat for the exact same thing for the outside issues, same exact cycle. It ceased to become a luxury. I had to have it it got to the point where I wasn't even enjoying it anymore. It says we can't control and enjoy our liquor. At this point, I had to have it just to survive, just to wake up. But we go back to that reading in the doctor's opinion. It says men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The way I liked the effect at that time was I was able to function. I just like literally could not function without it. Fast forward to that date. I was looking at 5 to 99 in Texas. I absolutely had to get it. I was tired of telling a judge that told me three times that she doesn't want to see me in her courtroom again. Yeah, there I was again. Just picture Judge Judy, but a felony court judge, right? It's just like someone you do not want to mess with. Um, at this time, I was tired. I was broken. I was just resigned to the fact that I would probably spend the rest of my life in prison. Because that's what the law prescribed. And I had to face the fact that even though it was a slim possibility, it still was a possibility nonetheless. Entered treatment, went to drug court, which was a lot of fun. Um, and basically learned that basically probation and parole, they weren't out to get me. They're actually out there to help me. So I utilized those resources. I wanted this with the same desperation of a drowning man. I just wanted to get out of Texas. I wanted to be done with this for good and for all. I wanted to come home, and I was truly, truly done. So I'm sitting there. This is really the fast abridged version of what it was like, because I really like to talk about the steps. And I'm going to start doing that now. I remember I was sitting on the front porch of the 24-hour club in Dallas, Texas, 4636 Ross Avenue. If you guys ever get down there, it's a great place. Found this guy, we're just sitting there talking, and I didn't really understand step one, two, and three that much. I wasn't willing to concede to that there was some big power greater than me that was going to solve all my problems. And he's just laughed at me. He's like, dude, we're just right now we're just trying to figure out if there's a power greater than yourself that can restore you to sanity, and the insanity is thinking you can go out and drink again. I was like, yeah. He goes, well, do you believe I'm sober? I was like, yeah. He goes, do you believe I was just as hopeless as you were? Yeah, because he did it the right way. Working with others tells us exactly how to work with the newcomer, how to work with the new alcoholic. You just talk, you really don't bring up the book, and you just identify. So I had to concede that, yeah, I agreed he was sober. He goes, cool, prove it. I said, I can't. He goes, well, welcome to your conception of a power greater than yourself that can keep you sober. And that's where it kind of stuck with me. Step one, once I start, I can't stop. And then after the hyphen is two distinct, unique statements. My life is unmanageable, and my life isn't unmanageable because of the consequences of my actions. People go to jail all the time and they're not alcoholics. People are homeless all the time and they're not alcoholics. It's just basically I made a decision to stop, and to this point, left my own devices. I was unable to manage that decision. So when he asked me if he thought he was just as hopeless as me, I had to agree. And he asked me, he goes, hey, do you think I'm sober now? I said, yeah. He goes, cool, prove it. I couldn't prove it. He goes, there's your conception of a higher power greater than yourself that can keep you sober. And that I could understand, right? I wasn't really looking for the czar of the sevens who's going to smite me for whatever. What do they talk about? The all ruling God who's going to punish me, brimstone and fire. I wasn't trying to hear all that. I was just literally looking to stop drinking. And when I got out of Alcoholics Anonymous, it was such more than that. Step three, this is the only time I really ever argued with my sponsor. And he basically said, if you ever yell at me again, I'm going to hang up on you. But I had to have this argument. I really did. Um, he tells me in step three that we're making a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as I understand him. Well, guess what? I don't understand God at this point. And this is probably why I was so frustrated. I didn't know. Um, as I understand him, I don't understand him. That's fine. But am I willing to believe, just willing to believe that maybe if he was able to keep my sponsor sober, that isn't it reasonable to think that he could help me stay sober? And I had to agree to that. So what am I doing in step three? And this is where I got into this lovely talk with him. He goes, well, what do you think it means? I said, turn my will and my life over to the care of God as you understand him. I said, eh. He goes, try it again. Why don't you open up the big book and go to the steps? I think it's page 58, 59, and read exactly what it says. And I said, all right, cool. And I'm, of course, rolling my eyes and shaking my head. Like, come on, dude. Well, here we are going to this page 62 thing again, but I'll do it. I'll do what you ask. So he goes, read it. I go, made a decision. He goes, stop, read it again. Made a decision. And we did this for about 5 minutes, and I'm like, this dude's really fucking nuts. But then I got that epiphany. So you mean to tell me all we're doing on step three is making a decision? He goes, thank God. Thank God. It took me about 15 minutes of that to realize that, wow, dude, I'm really not reading what it says. How do I carry out that decision? Well, first and foremost, what is my will and what is my life? My experiences, my will is, my thoughts, and my life is my actions, how I carry out those thoughts. And I got to turn that over, make a decision to turn that over to the care of God as I understand him, and I don't understand him that well. And honestly, this is kind of where I plateaued in the beginning, and I'm going to church, I'm going to all these places, and I'm asking pastors, like, I really feel bad because I don't believe, and I'm trying to believe, and I'm doing everything I can to believe, and all I'm hearing is just keep reading the word, keep reading the Bible, keep reading this. It's like I've been doing that. I just don't believe. Can you tell me how to do it? And out of all those pastors, not one of them was able to tell me exactly what you guys taught me, and we open up this Texas preamble. It's the Texas version, down in Texas, we're special. Sorry, Texas, but it's true. I got sober there. So they have a special version of the Wilmington preamble, and it says one of those lines literally saved my life. It says, in order to form a habit of depending upon and referring all we do to that power, we apply ourselves with some diligence. Repetition confirms and strengthens the habit, and faith comes naturally. Now, that is great news because now I don't have to think about God. All I have to do is do the work, and I'm going to get the results, and my faith is going to come naturally. So after that, we did our third step prayer, and this is a funny one. We're sitting there on the we're sitting there on the porch, and he's like, "Cool, we're gonna head up to this bus stop." Anyone who's ever been to the 24-hour club in Dallas knows there's a bus shelter right on outside of a 4-lane busy road. It's a major street. Yeah, we're gonna do your third step prayer right here. I was like, in front of all these people, in front of all this traffic. He's like, yeah, if you can smoke crack at high noon on Hickory, you can sure ask God to save your life here on Ross Avenue. And I was like, you know what? You got a point. So we did. After that, we went back into the little dining room, and, you know, he hands me my 4-step working guide. I remember this is a Friday because he said you have until Tuesday at 10 o'clock to finish your 4-step. Meet me at my house, 10 o'clock. Don't be a minute late. I was like, that's 4 days. He's like, yeah, usually I give him 3 days, but I work on Monday, so you're lucky. Um, Sober living is part of my story, and I'm really grateful for that place. Because if you weren't working, you're working with your sponsor, you're working your step work, or you can work your way out the door. That's how it was. They were very, very serious about us working our steps and getting these promises and getting these results. And so I did. 3 hours of writing it was, total of 3 hours. And I spread it out over some time, gave him some calls. He's like, why don't you pray about it? Um, keep going, just rooting me on. And finally, I got all of it done. I remember that Monday night, I texted him and I'm like, hey, bud, this is right when the swipe texting, he's actually the one that taught me how to do that. The bus gets to your place at 10:03. He goes, great. Well, you can get on the 9:03 bus and you can pray about it for an hour before you knock on my door. We did my 5th step, and first we got God involved, and he gave me his worst one, and I'm over there ruffling through my pages, and he's like, well, why don't you give me your worst one? And he just snatches my 4-step out of my hands and he goes, you know your best one. Let's just break the ice and let's get it over with. So, we shared our experiences. After that, we went through and he circled a few of my resentments. He said, we're going to talk about this one, and this one. We talked about those. And after that, it got to the point where I was able to just tell him my life story. Line item by item, word for word, resentment by resentment, fear by fear, sex inventory. Where did I unjustifiably arouse bitterness, jealousy, and suspicion? I was worried about that sex inventory because I was like, holy crap, I got to list every single person I've had sex with. He's like, no, yeah, it's the only ones where you unjustifiably arouse bitterness, jealousy, and suspicion. So you can start with everyone and work your way down. After the 5th step, we did the hour alone. Yes, I did take the book off the shelf. It does say that in the big book, so we had to do that, taking this book from the shelf. I looked at the first five proposals and, I asked myself, did I omit anything? Not did I forget anything, but did I omit anything? So that, intentionally leave something out. And after that hour, I was confident that I hadn't, and we started our sixth and seventh step. Now, this is anything you hear from me that can't be reconciled with in what's in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, please ignore. But I believe the sixth and seventh step were left really short for a reason, because I know my experience and, my experience in doing fifth steps with others and my experience with talking to a lot of people and my own experience. I really feel that this is where we have our own experience, you know. My experience went like this that I would realize I was just as powerless over these defects of character as I was the alcohol. See, I couldn't have just one resentment. I have one resentment, and the phenomenon of craving develops. I enter the well-known stages of a spree, emerging pissed off at the world with a firm resolution to be pissed off forever. Right? I can't have just one fear. Phenomenon of craving develops. I enter the well-known stages of a spree. Yada 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 yada. And we talk about this in the 10th step or in the 11th step where it talks about the morbid reflection. Right? I can't just have one fear. I'm going to stew on this thing. Step 8. Am I doing on time? Looks like I got, 13 minutes? Good. Less than that. Step 8, what we did, we took the fourth column of the fourth step, where was I to blame? And there it is. There's a recipe to my part in where I can make amends for this stuff. Well, if I did this wrong, then obviously I have to make amends. You're gonna hear the pay me's, the show me's, and the tell me's. The way my sponsor told me, he's like, Ted, you can't come steal my TV today. Um, and knock on my door tomorrow and tell me you found God and apologize. It doesn't work like that. It's I need to be prepared to make that amend before I make it. We talk about our creditors. We ran the our credit report, and I had to make right each and every single one of those because basically, if I owe someone money and I have money in my pocket, I'm walking around with money that other people's money. I can't just tell you I'm sorry. I have to come to you with an amend and then ask, what else can I do to make this right? And I'll tell you what, it's so much better than I'm sorry because my experience is if I tell people exactly what they're feeling, um, that amend seems to be a little more authentic. 2 minutes and 1 second, so I'll keep going. Um, 10th step, I continue to look for 11th step is my nightly inventory. So 10th step is my spot check. My 11th step is my when I retire at night. I have to do those every single night. I know I have a Zoom group I do these with a lot of people. It's usually me and my sponsees. I know one time it got so big that it actually had to have group conscience and I got out of it. So 12th step, continued carry this message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Um, you know, Basically, this is where YPAA is just so much fun. I'm a big believer in um, a vision for you. It says we're sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. If people could see no joy in our existence, they wouldn't want it. And this is why I love the YPAA conferences. Yeah, I'm old, but I'm still got room to grow. I think they call it oldie pa now, almost to grandpy pa. But it's just a really good opportunity to not only have fun, but to also to carry a really strong message. Um, I do work in a treatment center, but in addition to that, I also go to other treatment centers, just to carry the message because, it talks about the altruistic plane, right? So if I'm in working in treatment, I have to do, in addition to that, I have to do something, just out of the goodness because I want to carry this message. Um, it's interesting because, carrying the message in this field, I'm gonna say is it's hard not to get burnt out. I mean, I'll say it. So what I do is I have to make sure that I'm doing my stuff in addition to that. I got 1 second left. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.